coming to you today with a tag, a somewhat autobiographical tag. Now, this is an original tag by Mark at Book Time with Elvis, and I was tagged by Sina at Beating Around the Books, a friend over in Germany. It's a 15-question tag, and when you do a lot of tags like I do, like I have, you get to notice some of the same answers because the best tags I like, they go into like your childhood and that. It's not necessarily books you can grab off the wall. If it happens to be the case, it's a good thing. But like the first question here, what was the number one best-selling book on the day you were born? Or like the month, or as close as you can. Now, I was born in December of 1963, and in the month of March, and it stayed up there for 18 months, was J.D. Salinger's Raise High the Roof Beams Carpenters. Roof Beam Carpenters. And I remember that book. I've read all the Salinger stuff. There might be some new things, or new to me, that I haven't read, but back in the day I researched back in the 80s on microfiche, even for his unpublished short stories from like the New Yorker from the 20s. But there's been some new material published, I know, that I haven't read on J.D. Salinger. But I like him a lot. I'm Catcher in the Rye up there. I reread that last year. See review in the review playlist if you care to. Prompt 2. What are some books, series, or standalone that immediately remind you of your childhood? Now, I mentioned the Hardy Boys, and I was into all that and read all of them. I was into magazines though too. My mother was a big newspaper reader. My dad didn't read too much growing up. He was too busy working. He had many jobs, careers, but he's caught up on his reading in his golden years for sure. He's an avid reader now. But my mom was more into newspapers, or she'd read like a Danielle Steele book now and then. But she encouraged reading a lot. So I read like Mad Magazine. I read a lot of like rock magazines like Hit Parade, Cream Magazine. I'll put some covers up here. When the first short story I read before like grade school even was The Five Chinese Brothers, and I've mentioned that before here too, and you guys have commented on that. That was one of yours, or you know that story. 3. School days. Any books you were forced to read that you ended up enjoying? I remember in high school reading 1984 before it was 1984. That was kind of cool. And things didn't happen in 1984, like the Electric Eye and Big Brother and all that, until later, maybe around 1999. But so I remember 1984 and Animal Farm, George Orwell. Let's see, what else could I write down? Beckett's Waiting for Godot, and I say Godot because in interviews that's how Beckett pronounces it, Waiting for Godot. So I remember reading that in like junior high, and reading other kind of esoteric books too, but that's in a answer below. Prompt 4. Were you independent or part of a pack at school? Did you join in the reading fads of the day, or did you do your own thing? Okay, in high school, I was involved in a lot of stuff. Like we had the socials and the burnouts. The burnouts were like the pot smokers and all that. The socials were like in cheerleaders, in art groups, in Latin club, in the band. And I was in all groups. I was in art group, music. I was in jazz band. I was a drummer. I played snare drum and marching band. Played in the symphony band. I was in the choir. I was in drama club. I was an actor. I was in like a lot of the plays. My yearbook entry is huge. People, and then it says, "What happened?" I had a good time in high school. Uh, and like I said, I was more into music. I was always reading. I was good in English too. I had a great English teacher. I remember reading like, Ordinary People. What else did we read? We had read like, oh geez. It was, I took like 4 years with the same English teacher, so you'd think I'd remember more books. It was more like she encouraged my writing more. But I was into a lot of stuff, so it was in art too, so it wasn't just reading. I can't remember any fads that were going around. It escapes me. Maybe because I was okay. So to answer the question, I was part of packs and cliques, but I was independent too. Anyway, 5. Can you remember when you first encountered sex in a book? Now, I thought about this one too, and I mentioned this book, The Sting. People probably remember the movie better, with Jackie Gleason was in it, Paul Newman, Redford. Was Gleason in that? I'm sorry, I know Redford and Newman were, but I read that book before, and I remember that first time reading the F word. And again, I'm in junior high this time too, or maybe even younger. That's not the first time I heard the F word in life, but I remember reading that. Or I think isn't the F word in Catcher in the Rye too, I think? On the windshield, or... Prompt 6. What are some of the first kinds of nonfiction you encountered? And this is what I wanted to mention. Early on in junior high school, I was reading like Carlos Castaneda and Indian books. What else? More in-depth books, more biographies. I read a lot of rock biographies. You know, I was into music as a high school, junior high, high school, and beyond, college too. Prompt 7. Whose bookshelf was more fun to raid, Mom's or Dad's? Now again, I mentioned my mom read newspapers a lot, and so we had encyclopedias and books of short stories, but that was about the only bookshelf we had. I think I started my bookshelf in our basement. We had a big basement with a pool table and a full bar and poker table, pool table, pinball machine, foosball table. That was one side. The other side was woodworking and my art stuff and all my music stuff. So, and I don't really even remember a bookshelf in my bedroom now that I think of it. I was always reading like paperbacks. I started reading Stephen King early, you know, things like that. Clive Barker. 8. How diverse is your library currently? And let's see, I got some poetry, horror, classics, but TBR up there, nonfiction kind of up there, Joyce over here. I have books in boxes in Phoenix, Arizona area and Toledo, Ohio that I long to get back, and I will get back someday. It's a matter of finances and mail. 9. Did I mention poetry up there too? 9. What types of books do you find difficult to discuss? I can't even think of a joke here because none. I discuss everything. You know, I live in America. Like in bookshelf or bookstores, I've worked in several bookstores, and people who work in bookstores know that everything that's legal to be published. Let's talk about Joyce again, the 1933 obscenity verdict in United States of America. They have porn sections in bookstores because it's legal. You might have to go behind a curtain or something. Not saying that I... Why do I even say that? Because it's illegal. I've never... Now, a caveat to that. outburst. I've never been in like a bookstore in the poem area unless I work there. You know, I mean, God, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Ah. 10. In what ways do your life experiences and emotions shape your choice in reading? Huh. You know, these are very thoughtful questions, Mark. And I tend to get, sometimes I'm an open book. I reveal too much about myself. But, I don't know. Didn't we just do a tag about, are you an emotional reader? Or that was one of the questions before. And sometimes I am, sometimes not. 11. In much of the way your taste in food changes, so does your taste in books. How has your taste in books evolved over the decades? And at first I said I read more historical fiction now. And I might even read more autobiographies now. And I definitely read more nonfiction now. 12. Unfortunately, we get down at times. Do you have a book to lift you back up? I guess I do. I'll say Huck Finn. Here, I've got a copy of Adventures of Huck Finn. There's no "the" in front of it because that would be The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Huck just has adventures. This is a Norton Critical edition that I've been through one time, and I'm sure I'll be through again. But this is like my go-to book because I read this as an early. I should have mentioned this in one of the earlier prompts because I read Huckleberry Finn very early. I remember the first copy I had. It was a hardcover it was white with a cool picture on it. And you know it's a funny book, but it's really not a book for kids. I've read it at least 4 times more, and every time I read it, I read it in high school after reading it as a kid, then I read it as undergrad, then I read it a few years ago too, and I don't know, I just get a lot of it's a sentimental thing for me, and I like the South, and I like Mark Twain too, which brings me to the 13th prompt. Pick an author for each decade of your life. Now I've lived 5 decades, so Mark Twain for 1, rock and roll biographies for 2, plays for 3, Joyce for 4, and Dante and Pynchon for 5. Prompt 14. What do you say to people who think reading is boring? What do you have to say in defense of reading? And I love this question, to be civil, I want to say to people who say reading is boring is that I'd say, well, that's ignorant. That's ignorance. People have died for the right to read and the ability to read. Literally, people have died for that right. It's a privilege to be able to read. I've taught people how to read. I've more than one people I've taught how to read. I would be lost without reading. Reading is the ability to look at symbols and learn from that, and to travel places, and to grow. Okay, get off my soapbox now. 15. What was the number 1 best-selling book on my most recent birthday, and have you read them? They were John Grisham, James Patterson, David Baldacci, and although I've read all those authors and I enjoy those authors, I have not read their new books. The Obamas, both their books I'd like to read too. So all that's left to do is tag some people, and I'm going to tag, where's my pen? Got my big art pen here. I'm going to tag Jack at Rambling Raconteur. I'm going to tag Brian at Bookish. I'm going to tag Roz at Scalldandling about the books. I'm going to tag Noah at Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse. And I'm going to tag Josh at Working Man Reads. And I should pick a girl too. I'm going to pick Amy at From the Dusty Bookshelf. Hope you're doing well, you guys. And until next time, if you like this video and if you subscribe, next time I'll tag you too. All right. Ta-ta.